When I'm being tailgated, I calmly slow down until the tailgater goes crazy. What little things do you do to punish people? I was trying to pull into a parking spot and waiting for a lady to put her shopping cart away and close her door so I can get in. She leaves the cart dead center of the spot I was clearly trying to park in. I ask, ma'am, are you really going to leave your cart there? With a bitchy, see where the cart is? That's where it's gonna stay unless you move it. Got out of my car and put the cart right behind her car as she was trying to pull out. Freaking considerate and entitled people. Local supermarket has obviously got fed up of the council estate round the back nicking their trolleys, and have now got ones you need to put £1 in. Need to remember to leave £1 in the car. We have one that lives in there now, but it sure does help keep the trolleys in the trolley bays, and the trolley bays tidy. Best side effect ever. Switching it up. If someone is particularly nice or polite at the Wendy's I work at, I'll stick an extra nugget or two in their chicken or load up their fries. Street justice. There are a couple of just downright butthole parkers at my job. One in particular drives a relatively small car and can't seem to grasp the concept of staying between the lines. I don't care how fricked up he parks, I park next to him as long as I can stay between the lines of my spot. I've had to crawl out the back hatch before, but the sense of satisfaction knowing he would have to climb in through the back of his car is so satisfying. When people are rude with me or act like it's putting them out to help me, I pretend like I can't hear them and get them to repeat themselves as many times as I can. I work at a cafe. If someone decides to be a jerk while ordering, I secretly give them decaf. Couldn't really think of a worse punishment. Personally, a friend of mine works at a coffee shop. She told me she and her co-workers do this too. If a customer is crappy to the person at the register, they'll write FGD, sucker get decaf, on the cup and the person making drinks will happily oblige. I work at an ice cream store in a very touristy town on a lake. Tons of tourists. Some are very nice and some are complete douchebags. If someone is a douche to me, I will gently crack their cone before handing it to them. It's never visible, but in about 10 minutes they will have ice cream soaking through their napkin and dripping everywhere. It's not much, but it's enough to get me through the day. I approve of this. I live where potholes are common in spring and fall. For tailgaters, I drive directly towards each pothole, then safely miss it at the last moment. The tailgater will not dodge in time, and will hit it, quite consistently. Normally tailgaters only avoid such hazards because they're glued to your bumper, and you're steering clear of bumps for both. It's very satisfying seeing them mouth foo-oo-oo. Usually after 2 or 3 potholes at highway speeds, they back off to a safe distance so they can see them coming. Works like a charm, and leaves them very confused. Once on my drive home through Forest Park in Portland, along a winding road, a guy in some kind of tiny sports car pulled in behind me and seemed upset that I was only going 45 in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. When I slowed, he took the opportunity to pass, ignoring the double yellow line and no passing signs. He gunned his car and was so entirely focused on me as he passed, he completely missed that I was slowing down for one of those traffic control speed bumps that ask you to slow to 20 miles per hour for a crosswalk. He caught air. There were sparks as he landed. He didn't crash, but I imagined that he crapped his pants in the process of recovery. When someone gets in my face acting all off, I talk in quiet, non-confrontational tones and say things like, "How about we just calm down here?" This makes them rage even harder. My favorite thing is to call them cowboy. Example, calm down, cowboy. You'll never see anyone get more pee. I lived in an urban area doing a lot of road construction. People were tailgating, cutting each other off, etc. Basically a lot of road rage. It came to a head when 3 different motorists lost it and shot drivers they were angry with. After that, people began to calm down again. Be careful who you antagonize. I have a neighbor that used to yell at my little brother for walking the family dog past her house because it made her dogs inside go crazy. Not, mind you, stopping to let the dog do its business or walking on her property in any way, but simply walking our 10-pound dog, who never barked, past her house on the street itself. Problem is, we live on a dead-end road, so you had to go past her house to take the dog for any kind of walk. My brother, who has Asperger's, would come home all upset from being screamed at. This bee would come out and scream at someone she knew was disabled. She had lived on the block literally longer than my parents had, and we were in that house when he was born, and call him names at 6 AM. She even went as far as to call my house at 6 AM to complain. Needless to say, when you frick with my little brother we get a little evil about it. Pick a fight with me. Fine, I can take care of myself. He, however, is a very sweet, sensitive soul who wouldn't hurt a fly. After weeks of thought, we all went out and bought dog whistles. 5 of us who drove. Since our street is narrow and windy, you wouldn't go past much faster than 5-10 miles per hour or so. Made rolling by with the windows down laying on the whistle very easy. My father would blow his on the way in and out. 9 AM and 6 PM give or take a few minutes. I was usually a few minutes after him. My other brother work a 5 PM till 2 AM. We had these freaking dogs barking around the clock for months. At least a dozen times a day we would set her dogs off. Funny thing happened. She never complained, yelled at my brother again. I love it : Also, I really like seeing dogs that don't bark back. It makes them look like they're embarrassed for the dogs that do bark. When people rush onto a train bus without letting people exit first or otherwise block a doorway just to chat, I end up shoulder checking them. Not that hard as I'm only a 5 girl, but until they're at least out of my way. When people try to get into an elevator I'm trying to get out of, I will just cross my arms and stare until they move. 6 feet 2 inches, wide shoulders works wonders for making them back up. I used to work at an indoor amusement park and I was a games operator. So people would come play those stupid games and try to win stuffed animals worth 1/10 what they were paying. Anyways, one time this douchebag, probably early 20s, dressed in baggy garb and trying to impress his league of douchebag friends, is playing the knock the bottles over game and, of course, is doing a crappy job. He is basically putting all his weight behind throwing the beanbag and is missing by a foot, sometimes managing to make the top bottle sway. He starts calling me a carny and whatnot, and says loudly that the bottles are all glued down and stuff. So I jumped over the counter, took a beanbag from him and threw it at the bottles, knocking each one of them over and right off the table. I was 15 at the time and was just a little blonde girl. His friends all started laughing hysterically and the guy turned red. Our job was pretty boring, and my friends and I often played the games and competed with each other, so, safe to say, we were pretty awesome at them. Made the guy look like a freaking idiot. He did win the thanks for trying prize, which was a tiny stuffed bear, which I gave to him in pink. When customers at my job pay by throwing a pile of cash on the counter, I respond by throwing their change down into a messy pile. Then I sadistically watch them struggle to pick up coins from a flat surface. When this happens to me, I take each bill and uncrumple it, stack them nicely, put them in order from largest bill on the bottom to lowest on top, and finally put a nice crease down the middle so they are easier to handle. This works best when I am on an express lane, because then everyone else hates them for wasting their time too. I don't have any problem with people driving slowly, but for frick's sake, stay out of the left lane. As an Australian, it always takes me a few moments to translate that in my mind. This morning, I was cruising along a country back road going 60 kilometers, the speed limit. Cops are notorious for watching these roads. When I see in my rearview mirror this butthole going like 90 kilometers an hour and tailgates me for about 10 minutes or so. He kept trying to get around me, but there was always just enough incoming traffic to make it a bad idea. He is right on my boss, man. But I just kept going to speed limit because frick him and I see a train going through up ahead, so there's no point in rushing. This guy gets in front of me, flips me off, and immediately starts pumping his brakes. I'm sure he thought I was just as pee off as he was. Nope, just enjoying the drive and drinking my coffee, so I back off and give him some room. Wouldn't you know that once the train passes, he starts tailgating the next guy he is behind and keeps trying to get past him. After 10 minutes of driving the speed limit, this guy finally gets his chance to get in front of the car going the speed limit. He starts pumping his brakes for the next guy, trying to be in butthole. Then you see him start speeding again and then he hits a red light. Like the rest of us, I'm just keeping my distance, watching this unfold. It's pretty funny watching road rage as long as it's not directed at you. Top fave part is when these buttholes just have to get past because they're in such a freaking hurry and then you pull up next to them at the red light. Those are the times I wish I had a top hat to tip to them. Anyone who lives anywhere near Orange County is familiar with the 241 toll road. There is one point where the 241 north has an exit on the right side to the 91 east, and this exit can easily back up to 2 miles from the point of origin, especially during the school year. It is not uncommon to see many drivers who, instead of waiting in the queue like the rest of us lemmings, attempt to speed ahead and cut in line, causing even more of a backup to the remainder of the people behind them. But who the frick cares? I'm at the front and frick all you sorry tools behind me. That's all that matters, right? Well, I've come to really enjoy trolling these anti-lemmings. I remember this one specific incident where this woman and this gargantuan navigator had every intention of cutting me off. As she sped up on the lane to my left, I sped up. She slowed down. I proceeded to slow down. I smiled meekly when she glared at me and waved and halted, letting some room to open up in front of me. She thought that this was an indication of apologizing, proceeded to speed up, attempted to jimmy her fat suburban butt into the gap, only to come to the realization that she wasn't going to fit. Cars were building up behind her. Honking commenced. I saw her give me the royal bird. I waved again and drove around her, taking her spot. I hate my commute. When people park poorly, I will intentionally park next to them no matter my inconvenience. To be perfectly in my sport while making theirs difficult to get into. One time there was a BMW SUV that parked into the space next to it, so I parked perfectly in my spot. This left the owner with about an inch to open his door. The next day, same problem, same solution. Since then, he parks in the lines, every time. Mission accomplished. This one isn't my own invention, but my daughter's. She is quite a precocious child and has been speaking in complete sentences before she could walk. Anyway, she's 5 now, almost 6, and yet very occasionally, adults insist on Baba talk when they address her. I don't know if it's purposeful. I think so, because she's quite devious when it suits her, or not, but she gets a quizzical look on her face and then addresses the adult as if they're stupid. A typical exchange. Last week at the grocery store. Grandmotherly figure. Oh, and look at you little winces. How vicious are you? And what a big jiggle you are. Oh yes, you are. My daughter. Extremely slowly. you. I really am. Yes, I am a big girl. I snickered the whole way home. Sometimes the adult remains clueless and the exchange goes back and forth for quite a bit. Afterwards, my daughter usually turns to me and says something to the effect of, "Mommy, it's rude to ignore people that talk silly like that, right? Because they can't help being that way." Yes, honey, that's right. Give her a cookie for me, please. I work at a gas station, and whenever younger women buy cigarettes they usually have their id out before they ask for the cigarettes. If she is being a bee, I glance at the id when she isn't looking and make sure she is old enough. Then when she offers it I say, "Oh, I don't need that," and sell her the cigarettes. It pisses them off so much. So not everyone sees why this is punishment. Basically I am calling the people old without explicitly saying it. Also some other small things I do to get back at bad customers. When no one is behind them in line I double and sometimes triple check their change. Call women mom. Id people when they are clearly old enough and make them take their IDs out of their wallet to scan. Because it is store policy. We're only supposed to card people who look like they're under 30. The highway code says you should slow down, so the slower speed means the gap between the cars won't cause as much damage if there's a crash. I can't think of anything in general, but as a specific example, a few weeks ago my work, a gas station, was having a fundraiser for local children's hospitals. I asked everyone who came through my line if they'd like to donate $1. Ended up raising a shitton of money, which is nice, but I digress. This guy got into line behind a few people, talking obnoxiously loudly on his phone. He got up to me and blatantly ignored my friendly greeting, choosing instead to yammer on and on about how wasted he got last night to whatever poor son of a bee was on the other line. I told him his total, and he literally threw a bunch of 5s and 1s at me, and mumbled, "I don't know how much is there, just put the rest on pump 6. before snatching his bag up and whirling around as I tried to wish him a good day. I can't freaking stand folks that talk on their phones while being assisted. It really pisses me off. So, in a fit of insanity and revenge, I scanned in a $3 donation to the fundraiser, and then put the rest on his gas pump. I got the sweet taste of vengeance. Sick little kids got money, and the douchebag was none the wiser. It was a win-win-win. Traffic safety instructor here. I teach my students to slow down and increase their following distance when they are being tailgated. They need more time to react in case they need to come to a sudden stop. Pro tip for everyone that isn't my student. You can play yo-yo with a tailgater. Wait for them to catch up to you, then take your foot off the gas. They will catch up with you and be forced to brake. When this happens, quickly accelerate back up to your original speed. This will open up a nice cushion between you and the car behind you. They will speed up to catch you, but you've already taken your foot off the accelerator and are slowing down. They will catch up too quickly and be forced to slow down again. Just when they touch their brake, you speed up and reopen that cushion. This can go for quite some time and can be quite hilarious. I work at a shave ice shop. It's kinda like a snow cone, but softer. And we get a bunch of muscle-heady tourist guys coming in and always thinking they're pretty tough. So whenever a tough guy comes in and acts like he's the crap, I give him a pink straw to put him in his place. It's not much, but it's always nice to watch his friends bash him for having a pink straw. I was being heavily tailgated on the way back from school in May by a crappy Corolla or something. It got to the point where I could no longer see the headlights of their vehicle. Fortunately, it was about 11 PM on a dark and straight road with absolutely no lights around. I had toyed with my brother earlier by turning off the lights for a split second on a straightaway, and the area fell into complete and utter darkness. So naturally, I decided to use this to my advantage. I gradually slowed down to about 7 under, and finally the opportunity for the tailgater arrived. They sped up to pass, and as soon as they were slightly in front of me, I killed all the lights. I could see the road perfectly due to their lights. The two ladies in the car were frantically looking for my vehicle while trapped in the other lane, afraid of re-entering into the side of my vehicle. When they started to move over, I honked frantically. They were trapped in that lane for about 7 seconds before I turned my lights back on. No harm came of it outside of some brick crapping. This is so ridiculously risky, but I couldn't stop laughing. People that walk really slow and block the whole sidewalk pee me off, so I will cut around them and either walk really slow or act like I have to bend down and tie my shoes so they trip over me. I really hate when people stand in front of doorways and pretend like they can't see you when you're trying to get in. I need to bring more rams with me when I go out and about. I also do the slow down thing when being tailgated. Additionally, whenever I get honked at for anything, I smile and wave, pretending that I think they're honking because they know me. I wonder how many think I'm retarded. Or they might think they just honked at someone who knows them. That would be mortifying. If I am leaving the grocery store or any store that uses carts and catch some lazy crap leaving the cart randomly in the way, I calmly walk over to the cart and place it directly behind their car before they back out. Often get out and yell, and I just calmly tell them you forgot your cart. And every once in a while they just slowly back into it, then slam on their brakes wondering how the frick it got there. I know where there is a speed trap that is active about 50% of the time I go through it. If somebody's tailgating, I'll slow down more and more as I get closer to where the radar is, building up maximum frustration in the tailgater. Just before I go around the final corner, I'll kindly put on my directional and pull over to let him pass. It is human nature for these people to stomp on the accelerator and blast past me, hitting the radar going about 65 in a 40 zone. I wave politely as I drive past, after they've been pulled over. P.S. Have you ever noticed that if you honk at a car with a "Honk If You Love Jesus" bumper sticker, they'll usually give you the finger? Because they're atheists? I was driving to work, and after a green light some lady talking on her phone decided she had to cut me off. When she did so, I beeped at her. She then proceeded to stick her hand out the window and flip me off. All of this with her phone still in hand, and when she flipped me the bird, she then dropped her cell phone. I then ran over it, accidentally. I'm a new driver, and I get terrified when I'm being tailgated. I never thought of just slowing down. I will try that next time. If you're a new driver, you just might want to pull over and let them pass you if they are tailgating you. It's a lot less stressful. On older Jeep Cherokee models, the rear window washer tube is attached to the wiper with a small clip. My buddy decided he didn't like tailgaters very much, so he proceeded to unclip the tube and tie a loose knot with it around the rear wiper so that it was facing straight back. Next, he put red food coloring in his wiper fluid. Seeing people's expressions when they would get too close on the highway and then get a windshield full of blood-colored water was priceless. I don't let people in who try and cut in at the last second in a long line of cars. Frick them. So I'm aware of the zipper method, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if one lane goes right and the other lane goes straight. People rush down the straight lane and try to get over into the right lane at the last second because they're too good to wait. When I see someone abandon a shopping cart next to their car when a buggy return is nearby, I walk over to it and stare at them shamefully while I return it for them. According to the highway code in England, reducing your speed is exactly the right thing to do, although I don't think they had your decrease in mind. The closer the person is, the less stopping time they have, and so the slower you should go in case of needing to stop in an emergency. I don't like tailgaters, but if they start honking I will move over because they might have an emergency, medical or poop related. On the interstates at rush hour, trying to get home, thing is gridlocked far as the eye can see. Occasional butthole comes flying by in the breakdown lane, which was not authorized for overflow use on this particular stretch of highway. Almost all of them were going way over the normal limit, as if to rub it in, or maybe because they were worried about getting caught. Ensue copious amounts of smug derp de der. Look at me. I go roll fast lolling on the part of said buttholes. After 10 minutes of watching this crap, I decide to straddle the breakdown lane. I was already in the far right lane, so I'm now taking up 50% of each lane and, lo and behold, these ashats who were previously zooming by now find the breakdown lane impassable. After 5 minutes or so I've got 3 or 4 of them stacked up behind me, honking like crazy. I casually glance at them in my rear view and shrug, as if I don't understand what the big deal is. Ensue crazed rage on the part of aforementioned ashats. After holding them up for a bit I figure I've made my point, and slowly ease back into the right lane as traffic allows it. As soon as the opening in the breakdown lane is large enough, the handful of cars floor it around me, tires squealing, whilst offering obscene gestures galore. 60 seconds later a squad car flies past me in the breakdown lane with sirens blaring. It would be an understatement to say that I was downright freaking euphoric when I caught up with the cop and saw one of the drivers that I'd been blocking getting ticketed. I'd like to think that I fulfilled my civic duty and then some on that glorious day. TL. DR. Tortoise and the hare. Man. Tortoise and the hare. Also, don't be a self-entitled shithead. This post has almost 10,000 comments right now, so I'm probably talking to myself, but a couple of things. First, as a former defensive driving instructor, I want to point out that every driving textbook will recommend the same thing when dealing with a tailgater: slow down. The experts agree on this for 2 reasons. 1. Physics. A collision at a slower speed will result in less damage. And 2. Psychology. An aggressive tailgating driver will invariably pass, especially if you slow down. Second, I'd like to point out that there are several published studies that prove beyond a doubt that speeding isn't worth the bother, in terms of time saved versus the extra expenses incurred: fuel, engine, tire, tranny, brake, suspension wear, fines, and mental stress. You could end up being arrested, or have your car seized or damaged as well. In those cases, you lose even more money, and therefore time. Time is money, money is time. The only logical reason to speed is for the thrill of driving fast. I'm guilty of this myself. Very guilty. Under the right circumstances I have been known to drive triple the posted maximum, but most of the time you'll find me blocking your way, going slightly under the posted max, trying to keep a safe following distance. Finally, I'd like to mention that I was hit from behind while teaching a driving lesson, and it derailed my career. 7 years later and I still have pain and limited range of motion. Experienced motorists have a terrible habit of targeting instructor cars for displaying feats of skill or intimidation or resentment. Not sure which. Maybe all. At any rate, nobody appreciates it. The student loses an entire lesson when buttholes do that. The students become too anxious, and the learning ends for the day. It also places a metric fuck ton of stress on the teacher. You know, the guy who is trying to make the student a better driver for everyone's sake. It's counterproductive. Stop it. Thank you. When I'm being tailgated, I slow down to half the speed limit. Then when the tailgater goes to pass me, I begin to violently shake as if having a seizure as they drive by and finger me. Hopefully fricks with their head just a bit. Drive by and finger me. MMHMM. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.